Hello, PAX 2023 Rising Showcase team. My name is Phil Boda, and I am the lead game designer for IP Games. IP Games currently has 3 members, myself, my sister, who is our creative director as well as our webmaster, and then my brother-in-law, who works on balancing, note-taking, maintenance of our versions, so version control, things of that nature. The 3 of us have been working on our flagship title, Deep Dish Dash, for about 2 years now. We started during quarantine when we were all living together, and we had the idea to come up with this game based on our family-owned business, which is an Italian restaurant and pizzeria. So we are very excited to bring Deep Dish Dash to the table at PAX Unplugged 2023. Triple D, as it is commonly called, is a 2 to 4 player game that lasts about 45 minutes. It utilizes Yahtzee roll elements as well as take that card play, while players race through a ever-changing city to gather 5 toppings. But before we can get into collecting toppings, we need to set up the board and explain some of the traffic hazards you will face as you work your way through the city.
Now that the board is set up, each player can select their vehicle as well as their player board of corresponding color. Players will also receive an instructional card that explains what to do on your turn, any stipulations such as hand limit and things of that nature as well. The first player is the last person who has eaten a slice of pizza. And so what a player will do is they will select their car and they will go to the starting block of their player number. So let's say I'm player 2, and then they can place their vehicle on any street connected to that block. So for example, I can place it here, or here, or here, or here. And I can face my vehicle in any direction. So I'm going to place my vehicle here. Once all vehicles have been placed, recipe cards will be randomly dealt to each player. Now, the recipe card is your objective for the game. You will need to collect the toppings in this order. So, for example, I need to collect cheese, then bell pepper, then pineapple, then anchovy, and then finally pepperoni. The recipe cards are dual-sided because when you slot them into your player board, the opposing players will be able to see what toppings you need to go for. And your toppings will also be placed on your player board as well. So that way they can see which ones you've collected so far and which ones you're going for. The final thing to do to set up the game is to deal each player 4 cards. So once the cards are dealt, everybody can take a look at their cards. If you have a card that says play immediately, you have to put that card back into the deck and draw a new card. And that rotation goes based on player order. So player 1 will go first, then 2, then 3, then 4, and redraw a new card. From there, we are ready to start the first round of Deep Dish Dash. At the start of the round, each player will roll their 5 directional die. The die have a number of faces on them. There are turn symbols. This allows a player to turn their vehicle left or right. There is the straight symbol. There are 2 of these on the die. That allows their player to move their vehicle forward. There is the U-turn symbol, which will allow the player to turn their vehicle around 180. And then there is also the roadblock symbol. And so the roadblock symbol will cancel out the die that is immediately following it on your player board. And we'll get to that in just a moment. So let's say that this is my roll for the round. Since it is my turn, I have 1 extra reroll of up to 5 die. So I could reroll all 5 die if I'd like. Maybe I'll only want to reroll 2 die, right? Now everyone has this reroll, but they can only use it on their turn. So let me use my reroll now. Now that I've used my rerolls, I will place my die into the unplayed die area. And basically a player will do this in order to map out their route to get to the next topping. So let's say this is what I want to do. I want to make 3 turns and then go 2 straights, right? And so what I will do is I will play the die and move it into the played area. and that is called a die action. And with the die action, I can then move my vehicle. So the importance of die actions is that in order to collect toppings and do some other abilities in the game, you will need to spend your die action by moving it to the play area. So I didn't plan that out very well, but here we go. All right, so let's say the next thing I want to do is go straight. So now I'm moving my car straight. Then I want to go turn. And then I want to go straight again. And I have now gotten to the cheese topping. So each topping on the board will have multiple doors. And so the doors are how you collect the topping. Now you must use a die action, meaning that you need to move onto the space using a die in order to collect the topping. Now since I moved by using the straight die, I can collect the topping and place it on my player board. I now have one remaining die left to play, which is a turn. So my next topping is bell pepper. So I'll make a turn this way so I can try to get to bell pepper next. Now you can see that bell pepper only has two doors. There's a door here and a door here. So I must navigate myself to one of these two doors using my die in order to pick up this topping. Now it's time to explain some of the traffic hazards. Traffic hazard 1 is the green light. Green lights can be passed through without needing to do anything. So let's say on my roll, I'm still going towards bell pepper. I can go straight through this light as long as I have a die that is straight. So I can use my straight die, move it into my play area, and move my vehicle straight through this light. Now, let's say I'm at this red light here. Let's say I've gained my bell pepper and I'm trying to move forward to pineapple, which is over here. Red lights cannot be passed through for any reason. Okay? So I can't use a die action to move through this red light. I could turn around by using a U-turn and find a different way. Or there are cards in the deck that allow you to change the light of change the color of one traffic light, or move the traffic light to somewhere else on the board, or remove it from the game entirely. So there are a number of ways to navigate the city by removing and changing the lights, which could hinder or help your opponents. The next is the stop sign. So let's say I'm here. A stop sign, once you approach it, you cannot move through it on this turn, but on your next turn, you are allowed to move through the stop sign. So as long as you wait, you're allowed to go through it on your next turn. Now, there are a few of these C spaces on the board. So, as part of your turn, you are required to play one card from your hand. And so there are a number of different things that the cards can do. They can change the lights on the board. They can allow you to re-roll dice. They can take cards from other players. There are allow you to move to different portions of the board. So there's a number of different things that the cards allow you to do. Now, if you pass over a C space using a die action, that will allow you to either play another card from your hand or draw a card. Now you must decide and perform either one of those actions before you take your next die action. And that's why it's important to move these up one at a time, so that when you place the card space, you basically have like this timing to then play a card, draw a new card, whatever it might be. Now, at the end of your turn, you have to draw a card. So you always will gain a card back no matter what. And then you have a max of 7 cards in your hand. Play proceeds until all players have taken their turn, and then that will conclude the round. So all players can pick up their dice, and then the first player marker will move to the next person clockwise in the rotation. And so then the second round will start. All players will roll their dice for the first time. They can start planning their routes. And then the first player can take their optional reroll of as many die as they would like. And then they start moving their vehicle throughout the board, remembering to play their obligatory card before their turn ends. Now, Deep Dash can get a little bit hectic as there's 4 vehicles or 3 vehicles vying for different spots on the board. Maybe we all try to go to cheese at the beginning, so it can be, there can be a cluster in there, things like that. Some other traffic hazards or things that will help you are the expressways. So expressways are how you get around the map in quick succession. So let's say my vehicle is here. If I play a straight die, I move on to the on-ramp. So the on-ramp are these elongated pieces here. So if I move on to the on-ramp, I can actually exit at any off-ramp, which are any of these little pieces. And so what I will do is I move a street off of where the off-ramp is. You cannot end your turn on an express lane. And so I could actually, go this way and actually U-turn around and go right here. So you can be on the off-ramp on this side. Let's say it's this side of the street, if you will. And then another player can go on this side of the street without causing an accident. Now, an accident can happen if two players run into each other. So let's say I am here and my next die is a turn. And I turn into this player. That causes an accident. I would lose my most recent topping, and then this player would be knocked back on any street adjacent to where the accident happened, facing any direction. And the player who gets hit, they get to choose what street that they get placed on. Another way you could lose a topping is if you run off the board. So if you don't plan out your die well enough, and let's say I have multiple straights and no turns, and I have to use my die, because you have to use all your die in the turn, you run off the board, you lose a topping that way. But then you return to the board where you exit and you can face in any direction that you would like, but your turn is then over. Finally, we have wild toppings. So each player can collect one wild topping, and that will take the place of the next topping in their recipe. So let's say I got cheese and the next one was anchovy. Well, let's say I went to this wild here, I collected it via just this door, right? And I get a wild topping. This wild shop then becomes closed for the rest of the game. So each wild, there are 4 on the board, can only be used once, and each player can only have one topping. Now it's important to note the wild topping cannot be your first or your last topping. It must be one of the middle 3.
For PAX, we are working on creating custom directional die. We are also working on upgrading our light tokens, just because we know there are colorblind folks out there, so we want to make sure that it is legible. But we also like to keep the mechanic of having the red and green still in the theme of the game. So we're working on having those token pieces ready as well. We also have a couple of expansion ideas, such as a 2-player board. We have a delivery theme where you have to possibly, once you complete your order, you deliver it to a house on the board. We have a day-night clock expansion that we're thinking about as well. So we're really excited to bring this game to PAX and see and get some feedback on it, see what folks think about the game. We're also looking for an artist as well to help with, art for the board, for the cards, things of that nature as well. So we're really excited to have this opportunity and to hopefully just play some games and have some fun. So thank you once again, and we look forward to hearing from you.